this lesson is going to introduce you to clauses which are introduced by the conjunction cum. This cum, and really this is about how to translate cum in these types of clauses. You need to distinguish this cum, the conjunction cum, with the preposition. Right, remember the preposition cum plus the ablative means with. Well, this cum is actually very different from this one. This comes from the archaic quom, and it can be translated either as a temporal, introducing temporal clauses, causal clauses, circumstantial clauses, or concessive clauses. That means, by that I mean it can be translated as when, since, or because. Circumstantial is also when. I'll talk a bit about how that's different from this temporal. Or even, it can be translated as although. And when I'm translating, I actually, when I first come across a cum introducing a conjunction, that is, it's introducing a clause, when it's at the beginning of a clause, I will just in my mind say, okay, that means when, since, or although. And then move on, and then afterwards figure out what the best way to translate it is. So we'll take a look at these 4 different types of cum clauses. So the first is the temporal, and it's going to, so you're going to have the conjunction cum, and the verb in that clause will be in the indicative mood. And this is just going to be translated as when. So when the sun rises, literally will rise, when the sun will rise, when the sun rises, it will be a new day. We're just talking about the time. So when, in this case, when this happens, this will be the situation. Right? There's no idea, there's no sense of causality or anything else in this sentence. Or when we were going, the soldiers did not see us. So we've sort of got an equivalent action that is just as purely about time. When we were going, the soldiers didn't see us. Or when the king sat, the queen died. All right, this is just simultaneous action here. So this translated as when. Each of these verbs, notice, oriator, ibamus, sedet, are all indicative. So they're just saying that there is a temporal connection, a time connection between these 2 clauses. The causal clause is going to be followed, that the cum will be followed by a subjunctive. There will be a subjunctive in that clause, and this we can translate as because or since. So there is an idea of cause and effect in this. And what you want to remember is that this will follow the sequence of tenses. So review the idea of the sequence of tenses if that's not clear to you, but let's talk more about how to translate this. So, cum vir irato sit timeo. So when the man is angry, or because, in this case, because the man is angry, we've got a subjunctive there. I am afraid. I'm afraid because the man is angry. We've got a present subjunctive because we're in the present tense here. Cum Galli superati sint, Romani gaudent. When the Gauls were overcome, when they were conquered, the Romans rejoice. Rather, because the Gauls were conquered, the Romans rejoice. We've got a present tense here, but we've got the perfect here, because this has to be completed first. So because this was completed, because the Gauls were conquered, the Romans rejoice. But we're going to use still the subjunctive in this. Okay? Cum Romani pugnarent acriter omnes superauerant. Because the Romans fought sharply, they conquered everyone. So perfect tense here, past tense, we're in secondary sequence, so we've got the imperfect subjunctive there. And again, because. Or cum lupus porcum nec havisent, tristis eram. Because the wolf had killed the pig, I was sad. So we've got a subjunctive here, and here pluperfect because we're in secondary sequence. We have a secondary tense verb there. So all of these are because. They're showing cause, right? The cause is the pigs were killed. The effect is I am sad. So we've done when, and we've done because. In between here is what's known as circumstantial. Right? This is both temporal and causal at the same time. And we're going to use the indicative if the main verb is present or future. Right, so if we're in primary sequence, in other words. So for example, when I see dogs, I run. We translate this as when, but really there's an idea of because in there, right? There's an idea of causality. So when I see dogs, because I see dogs, I run. Or cum romani dormirent, Galli nos... this shouldn't be petirent. Petiverunt. But let's get back to this. So it's circumstantial when the main verb, or we'll use the indicative when the main verb is in the present or future. When the main verb is in a past tense, we're going to use the subjunctive. So main verb in the past. So cum Romani dormirent, Galli nos petiverunt. When the Romans were sleeping, the Gauls attacked us. Here's our subjunctive. When the Romans were sleeping, the Gauls attacked us. Really, again, there's a sense of causality in there. They attacked us because the Romans were sleeping, but it also happens to be time related. So that's why we call this circumstantial. Another example, cum porci fugiscent lupus essuriens factus est. So there's our past tense. The wolf became hungry. Main verb in the past, so we're going to use a subjunctive in our cum clause. When the pigs had fled, the wolf became hungry. There's a sense of causality in there too. So that's the circumstantial. Finally, we're left with the concessive. Although. And for these, we're going to use the subjunctive mood throughout. And oftentimes a clue is going to be this word tamen, which can translate to nevertheless. So cum canes timeam, unum tamen habeo. Although I am afraid of dogs, nevertheless I have one. Or cum Romani dormirent, non tamen Galli nos. Let's change that again. Petiverunt. To the indicative. Although the Romans were sleeping, nevertheless the Gauls did not attack us. Or cum porci fugiscent, lupi tamen bene adderunt. Although the pigs had fled, the wolves nevertheless ate well. So, things to keep in mind about these cum clauses. When it's purely temporal, we're going to use the indicative. Otherwise, in most cases, you're going to see the subjunctive. And there you have to decide, is it when, is it since, or is it although? When being circumstantial here. And for that, leave yourself some wiggle room. Leave it open until you can look at context. Context will tell you whether to translate that cum as when, since, or although.